We are a great country. We are an ancient country, and we've grown stronger with each decade and each century that we've grown stronger. Nothing can destroy what India stands for. Now, we've been subjected to all kinds of invasions and all kinds of perfidy and conspiracies, yet India, by its sheer dint of its courage of its soldiers, the wisdom of its leaders, have been able to suppress all designs, nefarious designs.
The idea behind this exhibition was to tell the younger generation as to what happened in October 1947 when the accession of Jammu and Kashmir to India took place. Because that's nearly 70 years ago and most people have forgotten. And there is a lot of misinformation or incomplete information that goes around. Because it's very important that our younger generation knows that the accession of Jammu and Kashmir to India was perfectly legal and constitutional. The Pakistanis have their own propaganda, etc. But in order to counter that, I think it's important that our people know about those facts. But another equally important aspect of that story is that in 1947 and up to 1949 January, the Indian Army fought a fantastic war for almost a year plus. A war which was triggered by the accession because there were these tribal raiders assisted by the Pakistan Army who had come into Jammu and Kashmir, had come close to capital Srinagar, had done a lot of looting, pillage, rape, etc. And when the accession took place, then J&K became part of India legally and constitutionally, and the Indian government of that time decided to send the army and the army troops to J&K to save Srinagar from falling. And that led to a war which continued till the 1949 January when the UN-sponsored ceasefire came into being and a line of control came into being. But during that period, the heroism, the valor, the sacrifice of the Indian Army has now been forgotten. Very few people know about that particular episode. So this exhibition brings together some footage of that, live footage of that war.
This exhibition was conceived in the wake of all the negative reports that have been emanating from the Kashmir Valley about the manner in which the government of India and the security forces in particular have handled the aspirations of the Kashmiri people. But the fact is, the security forces are as much the victims as the people of Kashmir. For the real villains are the ones sitting in Rawalpindi. The fact is that it has been a part of a conspiracy since the independence. The story starts off on very early, immediately after our independence when we gained in Pakistan. There was a Major General called Akbar Khan who unleashed Operation Gibraltar, which was basically to wrest Kashmir from us. And so this is the story. This exhibition puts together that story of how Pakistanis, along with the British, it's difficult to believe that the British who were in charge of the countries, both the dominions, the viceroy was common, the commander-in-chief was common, and you had British commanders, and till then you worked under them for 250 years. So it's impossible to believe that they didn't know that invasion such a large scale was taking place. So this is a conspiracy that took place in 1947 that is executed by Pakistani forces in the garb of raiders. So this tells us the story. We have this entire story of our Radcliffe line that is there, how India and Pakistan was created.
A very interesting account, what Colonel Pillay said, that the British also played a very negative role. Now the facts of it are confirmed. When these events were taking place in 1947-48, the ADC to Mountbatten was a person, Indian, called Narendra Singh. He was the Yuvraj of a state in central India called Sarila. Later on, he joined the Indian Foreign Service and became our Indian ambassador in Paris and Switzerland. He has written a book about partition in which he mentions that this whole scheme of creating an independent Pakistan separate from India was that India, being a large country, would become the dominant power not only in South Asia but also in the Middle East. This fact is confirmed with the British cabinet papers of that period which have been released. So what they did was, Balochistan, which is here, that did not want to join Pakistan, they wanted to join India. And on the tip of Balochistan here is that Gwadar port where the Chinese have opened up in it. Now this is just about 500 kilometers from the mouth of the Persian Gulf, what they call the Shatal Mandev. At that time, the world's major sources of oil, petroleum, was the Persian Gulf. It has that area of Balochistan. Then India would control access to the Persian Gulf and can choke off Western trade in it. So the British planned to create Pakistan, and particularly this Balochistan area, which did not vote to go to Pakistan, to be a part of Pakistan, so that the great Indian power would not be able to influence Western trade interests and petroleum interests in the Middle East. This is not only what he said, and listen, you have to take his words seriously, because he was Mountbatten's ADC during these events. And his book is worthwhile, getting that book and reading it. And he quotes the British cabinet papers, the secret papers, which were declassified.
Gaining independence, the princely states were supposed to get into a standstill agreement with either of the two dominions, India and Pakistan, to continue the supply of essential goods once the British left the country. Place to mention here that the Maharaja first approached the government of India headed by Nehru for the standstill agreement, but the government placed too many preconditions for its signature, which led him to the Pakistani side. The Pakistanis breached the agreement immediately on its signing, leading to a lot of scarcity in his kingdom. Thereafter, the state forces in Punch also rebelled against the Maharaja, leading to a lot of problems. The Maharaja was thereafter invited for talks by Muhammad Ali Jinnah and Liaquat Ali Khan, and he was supposed to be at the Bimber guest house on the night of 21st of October, which was subsequently run over by the Razakars and burned down. Sheikh Abdullah was a very tall leader amongst the Kashmiri people. He started a quit Kashmir movement against the Maharaja. Now the Maharaja had him placed under arrest for all the trouble he was creating. Jawaharlal Nehru insisted that Sheikh Abdullah should be released before any agreement could be signed, and that's what drove Raja Hari Singh right into the hands of the Pakistanis.
The whole issue is, while this is all known, like what earlier we said, Balochistan and the Gilgit axis that today has now provided the Chinese as the mainstay of their one belt, one road, allowing them access to warm water ports, would have been an impossibility had today Gilgit and other regions been in our control.
This exhibition is also a pointer towards a large, repository of knowledge which is sitting there to be explored and interpreted.
A ceasefire was declared on the 1st of January 1949 unilaterally by India. Reasons for holding that when we were clearly on the ascendancy is unknown to us. But the line runs as per this alignment, where today continues to be this is what has been, and this we are quite capable of reclaiming all the territories that were held by them. And the terms of the plebiscite, terms for the UN resolution that was passed, was that the Pakistani forces had to withdraw to the pre-1947 lines, and then the Indian forces had to withdraw back, and a plebiscite was to be held. But people all remember only the plebiscite. And very clearly, even if a plebiscite was done in 1947, the people were clearly on our side. So there was a lopsided agreement, a kind of an agenda which was trying to give a voice to a very few people in that area. There was a silent majority and there was a vocal minority which actually questioned the accession to India, and so unfortunately we listened to the loud. We had this Shama Prasad Mukherjee who actually campaigned very clearly against the Article 370 there. This is essentially a display which shows the entire timeline, starting from August 1947 when Gandhi visited that museum, and you had this you have all the standstill agreement violated by Pakistan in September, the invasion by Pakistan. On October 26th, V.P. Mehan visits and signs the instrument of accession, and thereafter on 27th of October the Indian Army lands under Colonel B.D. Rai. They take off early morning and they land in Srinagar airfield, unknown whether it's recapture or reclaim territories there, and then he dies later in the evening to a sniper's bullet in Baramulla. Thereafter you had these the complete constitutional government and the UN resolution on Kashmir, which I mentioned about.
I'm Jane Himmat Singh. My husband was in the army. He retired as Lieutenant General Himmat Singh. That's why my interest with anything connected with the army. And when I heard about this museum curated, shown here in this National Archives of Delhi, and I thought I must come and visit it. But I tell you, it is amazing. I did not expect it would be done so beautifully. I'm sure that a lot of extensive study must have gone behind it, and also the way that it's been displayed is, I would call it mind-boggling, because it just takes you back into history, and you almost feel that you were there during the Operation Kashmir. And when you read about it in the books, it doesn't really come out as it does now, because the people who have done it so well that they've taken every aspect of that war, pre-war, after war, during the war, what happened, and that really, it's like a three-dimensional show. And I think every Indian citizen or the children should come and really visit this. I think that this exhibition must travel in all the capitals of our country. And it's okay you have it on YouTube, you have it on something, but when you visually see it, it leaves you such an impression.
The reports of the militia moving in and the signing of the accession, we had Brigadier Manik Shah and VP Menon fly down to Srinagar, who assesses the situation and gets the Maharaja to sign the Treaty of Accession. The story of Brigadier Osman, who was lured by a very lucrative position in Pakistan. He was told that he would be given the rank of a general and just to take over, but he refused because he valued what India stood for. India stood for freedom, equality and fraternity of all humankind. And Pakistani state was a theological state founded on religion alone, and he knew that it was bound to fail. And this brigadier, a gallant brigadier, fell defending those very ideals against invasive forces, and he was decorated with the Mahavir Chakra for a sheer gallantry in command of his brigade. He's a paratrooper and is one of the finest traditions of the Indian Army. Field Marshal Cariappa was a major general at the time. He would not be nominated. For some reason, we chose to allow the British to continue to rule us as our. We had a viceroy in the form of a Britisher, and we had the commander-in-chief, which was there. This Yadunath Singh is the first Paramveer Chakra amongst the Jawans, other ranks, and he's from my battalion, 1st Rajput. I'm privileged to belong to the battalion that he served and set a standard for gallantry. 3 waves of attacks of those rebels of the Lashkars were repulsed by Yadunath in his section. Repeatedly, orders to withdraw were ignored by him, and as he took on them, and he probably oversaw the death of about 2,000 Lashkars. He was decorated with the Paramveer Chakra at that time, and he continues to inspire by sheer gallantry. General Thimayya was the GOC who captured Kargil, and in the high altitudes of Zojila, he was one of the greatest generals that we had and the greatest chiefs. He had warned us about what is going to happen in 62 in China, but it was not heeded. Military advice is rarely heeded in our country. Professional military advice. Any great country has to have, has to take in, and that happens when you have a secure and a very confident leadership, which understands the value of military. You see that any great country always values their military advice. And military, there are 3 pillars on which a country grows, and military is one of them, economy is the other. And the fact that we are a democratic country, we've flourished so far, so long, it is testimony to the credentials of our armed forces that has never interfered in the processes as has happened in our neighborhood. These are the other gallantry award winners, the Mahavir Chakra. Somnath Sharma was the first officer to get the Paramveer Chakra here, and he was from the Kumaon regiment, again a very fine fighting regiment. And this wall has the 353 Veer Chakras and the 53 Mahavir Chakras, and this is along with this, it is a testimony to the sheer grit, determination and the fight that took place to earn and reclaim parts of Kashmir that we today have in our possession against deceit and conspiracy and perfidy. So, interesting part is here, these are the guns that were used. Interesting part that is there is to be remembered is, this is a cartoon, this is 1948, it says the Pakistani army, the same guy, the raider, the same guy, Azad Fauj, the same guy, these are the UN interlocutor there. So if you look at it, if you look at the cartoons, they're the same even today, it remains. Look at the treachery that they want to show. They say welcome, they want to have peace talks, and they actually have a raid being taking place. It happened in 1999 in Kargil, it's happened all the time. So these are the things that we continues today. Another great thing that we need to really realize is that the Air Force was split between 2 countries, and the assets were distributed, and Indian Air Force were short of this. So there was a great role played by the Tata Airlines and the Kalinga Airlines and other civilian pilots who flew in and without even bothering about the safety and security. Like the payloads were exceeded many times invariably when battalions are inducted. The Air Force played a great role in flying down the assets into those, the highly volatile area, unsecured areas, and the assets there. The landings took place all because of the Air Force. We've been nourishing this for long. It's time that we put an end to this issue completely once and for all by firm, decisive action. And that can only come when you decide to. This is like, I just want to tell you, it's like a beehive set on fire, and we're running after the bees here in Kashmir. We should be running after the man who set the fire under the honeycomb in the first place and finish the issue once and for all. Let's leave the bees alone. The bees will go back to the hive once the fire is put out. And the fire is very clearly put out in Rawalpindi in the GHQ. And clearly India represents to the world the principles of which we all yearn for, of equality, fraternity and brotherhood and secularism. Whereas Pakistan is a theological state which is in control of an army. An army has the control of a state, whereas here the Indian army has always been subjugated to the civilian will and wishes of the government in power.